Hello and welcome at Focus Trap. My name is Tim Damen, and today I'm joined by Anuradha Kumari, senior front-end developer at Vodafone. Welcome, Anuradha.
Thank you, Tim. I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for the invite.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I feel like you're a very special guest, so you're more than welcome, of course. Yeah, we are going to talk about accessibility, digital accessibility topic. I think where you have a lot of expertise in, so that's nice. I'm looking forward to all of the discussions and topics we will discuss. To start off with, what does digital accessibility mean to you?
Yeah. So like there are lots of definitions, but the one I really prefer is like simple and sweet. So it is making resources and services usable by everyone, regardless of their abilities or disabilities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, the internet is very awesome
Yes.
and very useful. Why not share it with everyone? Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
it is for
yeah,
everyone. So when I guess web was created, right? The
Mhm.
first
Yeah,
ever website that was accessible. So
yeah,
like web was meant for everyone.
yeah.
Somehow we messed it up. So it's
Yeah.
our job to
Yeah,
make
indeed,
it better
to make
again.
it better. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Great. Yeah. And what was your journey like in accessibility? I'm sure you maybe started off as an engineer and then started more focusing into accessibility.
Yeah, that's actually interesting journey because I
Mhm.
do understand when people have not heard about accessibility because in college I never knew about accessibility. Then when I started, I have developed, like I'm ashamed of that,
Mhm.
but I have coded front end code like for lots of years, at least 4 or 5 years without knowing accessibility, you know,
Yeah.
and but one day and that's where I think the events are really important. I feel that events are
Yeah.
really important
Yeah.
because when you hear about it, then that's the time when you become curious. So there is something called Global Accessibility Awareness Day.
Mhm.
It is practiced every year, and I'm really thankful like to
Yeah.
people who created it because that was when I heard about accessibility because there were
Oh,
GAD and I was new to Twitter and all, and I'm looking at
Mhm.
all these global accessibility awareness events, and I'm like, okay, what is it? And then I was like, I just signed up for one free
Mm.
event, and that was a very like a 101 of accessibility, and that
Mhm.
just like that had so much impact on me because I was like, oh my God, like I have been doing I have been doing
Yeah.
development wrong my entire career till now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's so bad because I just felt very bad. I felt so guilty. And then I started exploring more and more. And then I started talking with my teammates and asking them that did they know
Mhm.
about accessibility?
Mhm.
Because I
Mhm.
felt so ignorant, because
Mhm.
when you know about it, you feel this is so basic. How did I not know about it? And then people either didn't know, or even when they knew, they were more like, yeah, it is for blind people, right? And like things like that. So
Mhm.
that's when I was like, okay, let me, I will read. And then I was like, and that's how my actually speaking started, like outside. Like I used to speak in my company and events, but I never spoke outside. And I think after I learned accessibility, that's when it triggered me. I found a meetup near my place and I told them that I have a topic about accessibility. Would you be okay to host me? They were very happy. And then we had a talk. And then again, my talk was very basic, 101 talk. And then I was also scared because what if everyone knew and I make a fool of myself? And I went there and I gave a talk and I saw so many people like their mixed expressions. Someone were surprised, someone was saying, okay, yeah, that should be there. Why it's not there?
Mhm.
Then I talked to them afterwards and they were like, no, that's very important. Like we didn't
Mhm.
know this much. We just
Mhm.
know, like people who knew, they also know just the basic that, okay, it is for blind people and all. We don't need
Mhm.
to think much. Like, that there was a segregation that
Mhm.
people who knew also, they didn't know that we have to work for it. So that gave me the boost. And I was like, okay, that means that more work needs to be done and more people need to know.
Yeah.
and their feedback was the same. I'm going to go back and look up more. So I
Yeah.
realized that people need to know, and
Yeah.
then they can take it from there. But the first step is awareness. If you don't know about
Yeah.
anything, you will
Yeah.
never act on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There are a few things I want to make a reaction on. So because so you said, okay, I feel ignorance, right, about not building accessible web applications in your case. But are you really to blame here? Because you did your studies, right? You did an education. You passed probably, right? So you started out as an engineer in front end, but you didn't know anything about accessibility. Is it your fault at first?
so it's not more about the fault or blame, yeah, but like I think yeah, but the responsibility, where does the responsibility lie? I think that it's both.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, and that's the huge lack. The biggest lack is that the educational organizations, the educational platforms,
Yeah.
or all the trainings they provide for 3 months before people get placed for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
companies,
Mm-hmm.
they need to have accessibility in part of curriculum, right?
Yep.
And it's not just about digital accessibility; it's about accessibility in general as well,
Mm-hmm.
because we need to be mindful of different kinds of requirements that people can have, and we need to be mindful. So curriculum is like biggest thing. The curriculum really needs to put accessibility
Yep.
in there. uh, and then as a developer, a little bit responsibility is on me, because also on me, like definitely, because if I'm reading,
Mm-hmm.
I always read about semantic HTML, but I never questioned why semantic
Mm-hmm.
HTML and all. So at that point, because I'm very curious, like I like to question things. I don't take things like, if you tell me I have to do, why? I need to know why I have to do it.
Yeah.
So on that point, I blamed myself, that why didn't was I not more curious. But another big part, which I feel is part of the gap, is when you don't know uh, disabled people around you. You know, like you grow up with certain kind of bias.
Yep.
A bias, as in not like that you are biased toward people, but because if you have never interacted with or never seen, let's say, a blind person or any people
Mm-hmm.
of disability, how they are interacting with web, or what are the challenges they are facing, if I don't know, I will never think about it. So
Yep.
that's why it's very important for us also to be around people, and also
Mhm.
to learn, like
Yeah.
that's some, yeah.
And this day you were talking about the Global Accessibility Awareness
Yeah.
Day, right? This is because they reached you via this day, and also they show what is it like to live with a disability.
Yeah.
So I think in these days are indeed really important, because this is a day where you can experience or get to know about something you didn't know before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important. Like
Yeah.
that event plus conferences. I think the conferences where uh, people keep talking about accessibility, because that is really important. Like you speak
Yeah.
about accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
I and many other
Mm-hmm.
people. That's very important. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, most of the front end conferences, like we were just
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really nice that more and more conferences should have accessibility as a topic as well,
Yep.
because many people turn up there and they can learn and go from
Yep.
there.
Definitely. I do think um I do think the EU Accessibility Act is helping in there because it becomes mandatory. So you will see it in more also education. I think
Yeah.
education is also picking up accessibility more and more. And I know front end studies that are now that have it as a curriculum as well, and spend a lot of time on it. So I do think we are heading in the right direction. But yeah,
Yeah. That's pretty good.
yeah.
Like, I just like, I just feel a
Hmm.
little sad that
Hmm.
we needed a law to focus a lot on it. But anyways, like whatever helps us, right? Like, so I'm really happy that we have this law now. And I like you said, I also see this positive change. More and more people are asking about accessibility, training on accessibility,
Hmm.
trying to make products and services accessible, and curriculums and all, they are adopting it. So
Yeah.
a positive change.
Yeah.
And it's really like kudos that we have been able to do that. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty good,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, it could be like a kickstart, right?
Yeah.
Of like, okay, becomes mandatory. Then you start to look into it. Oh, this is pretty important, right? This is something we value as a company already. Why aren't we spending more? That's also the case for ABN, I would say, because we want to be an open bank. We want to be a bank for everyone. That's in like our founding documents, or like the 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 statements we use today as well. We want to be a bank for everyone. So it aligns with a lot of the things that companies already try to do nowadays. So that's also, I think, why I think it can stick in the long run. Um, but of course, we need to stay advocating for it because
Yeah.
yeah.
I like how you said that that's just a kickstart, because of course
Mhm.
that is like
Yeah.
EA is not the end goal, like the
Yeah.
European Accessibility Act is the start, right? Like that's where things start. So once it gets effective into the summer,
Mhm.
that's when the things will start to turn up even more. So I think a good approach wouldn't be that we go and check box all the things, make it accessible and forget about it, but the right course of action would be how to like put it into a streamline, like like how do I say it? Like accessibility should be like a core. Like whenever you are going forward, the development, decision making, and all that should be at the core going forward. Like it's a way of, it's a way. It's not the end goal. It's the way of doing things. I would say like inclusion
Definitely.
is the
Definitely.
way of
Yeah,
going
definitely.
forward.
This is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I like to compare. I talked about this a lot already in the podcast, but I like to compare accessibility to security, for example, because in banking, security is very important.
Yeah.
A lot of big companies, of course, it's very important. But also in terms like, okay, we have security, performance. You have these things,
SEO.
SEO things that are important for
Yeah.
a web application, and like the core things you are trying to take care of on a day-to-day basis. Accessibility needs to be in there as well.
Yeah.
It's like, to me right now, it's so bizarre that for example, when I do something that's really insecure in my web application, I install a package that's not secure, my pipeline breaks. Right? The monitor will turn red because security processes in within the bank, they picked up on something that I was doing that was insecure. But this is not the case for accessibility. It's I'm able to push as many inaccessible features to production if I want to. So they're not what I'm not saying to automate all of the accessibility, try to automate everything, but there need to be processes in place um, throughout the organization that make it really hard for me as an engineer or a designer or copywriter or a tester to do things that are inaccessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing with accessibility is you can't automate everything.
Mhm.
Like your automated test can pass, and still you can be pushing inaccessible code. But of course, they are a start. So I am like, I like those tools which are in place, right? Like you can have the Axe tools, which you can put it in your CI/CD pipeline. Also, I like the linter, like Axe linter. It's just like we have so many extensions in any code ID that we are using, right? Uh, I just use Axe linter and it helps me because it just gives you a squiggly line. Okay, it's not stopping me from pushing my code, but when you see it, your attention goes there. I did something wrong there. Again, it's not for everything, but it's for something, and I'm happy that I can eliminate at least the things that some tool can help me with. But it's more than that, right? Like uh, it's the tool, automated tool, can tell you that hey, the alt tag is mandatory, like you did not put alt in your image, but it's not going to tell us that do we need a alt there or not. So that's their responsibility to understand that we are putting the right alt, or if it's presentational, we have to set it to empty string so that still it's accessible. But that's our responsibility. So yeah,
Yep.
it's both, I think, combination of both. So yeah, Eileen, for security also, like you said, for performance, so there are questions when you, let's say, you implement a new feature or you try to bring a new approach, then people ask you the questions, is it performant enough? So that should be the like way of working for accessibility also. Okay, is it also accessible? Or yeah, so like okay, someone implemented a hover state. What about keyboard users? Like how is that getting that's going to work? So those things we need to question, and it needs to be there at every stage, I think. So there is more to it.
Definitely, definitely. Um, so at your current employer, Vodafone, how is accessibility a priority for you? Yeah.
Yes, so definitely it's a big priority for us. So we have an accessibility guild in place,
Hmm.
and actually that was in place even before I joined the company. So they have been doing work for quite some time, and I really hear very interesting stories from them. So that I really like, and so the way we work is like uh, we also have external audits. So we work with another company, accessibility.nl,
Hmm.
who does provide audits and
Hmm.
all the official audits and everything.
Okay.
And I think we had few audits before also, and maybe we are due for another audit, but I'm not sure of the timeline.
Do they do an
But
audit on a regular basis or?
there are some plans on which
Mm.
they go, because just doing audits also wouldn't make sense. You have to
Yeah.
fix it and all.
Yeah.
But what I like is everyone is on board. Like they really worked a lot.
Hmm.
The members of Accessibility Guild, when I joined, now I'm a member, but the most of the work which was done by them to
Yeah.
uh, get the leadership onboarded, get the
Hmm.
stakeholders onboarded. Like I think a lot of work was done by them, because I understand that this is a challenge in any company that you work with.
Yeah.
And that's very impressive, because we have training for everyone. Like we have training for different roles, let's say. So as a developer, we had our trainings.
Hmm.
From developer perspective, we have also had trainings for editors, we also had trainings for designers, and everyone is on board. Like, and we have a chat open where we have a weekly question and answer hour as well, where people, and I see more and more people turning up and asking like, okay, I'm implementing this feature and I think how can I make it more accessible, or am I doing something wrong? And other, like some editors will come up that this is not an accessible color and all, how can
Hmm.
I make it accessible,
Yeah.
where the work needs to be done and all, and product owners and all discussing about features. So that's pretty nice. Even I go there with my
Hmm.
questions
Hmm.
sometimes,
Yeah.
because I have ideas and I'm like, I need to run by, because I need to understand what other people think about it and what's the right approach to take.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. And when I see the enthusiasm, so that's one biggest thing, like while creating any strategy for accessibility, which I feel collaboration is needed. One person cannot strategize, and just one person or two-person cannot work on accessibility. It needs to be for every role. Every person needs to understand its importance, because there are different ways in which the work comes in. It's not just that the developers are going to code it, right? When requirement comes from our stakeholders or what we are trying to do, it starts from there, even from before.
Hmm.
uh, in the way we are trying to make a new feature, like what are we trying to solve for our users, and how can we
Yes.
solve for all different kinds of users.
Yeah.
To when designing, the annotations are very important, right?
Yeah.
When you are yeah.
So is this discussed during like planning meetings within your team, for example, or is this more like so the things that you're discussing right now, they're really I think more in like the designing phase of things, right? But
uh,
or
Not only design,
yeah,
uh, at multiple phases, but yeah, like for me, I always try to take an opinion from UX,
yes,
because UX opinion is very important, and
yeah,
they know more,
yeah,
is what I feel always, that they definitely know more.
yeah,
So for us, because actually I am in B2B, so
Mm-hmm.
business to business. So like
Mm-hmm.
business to business is not a priority right now, but still I like that my product owner,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, okay, but we go with it because I am in the team and I focus on accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are discussing at our level, I can tell you, like when we are discussing like a new feature, or like okay, this is a thing we implement, or some changes in a component,
Mm-hmm.
we always see about what about accessibility, how are we going to implement it, like
Yeah.
how are not implement, it's not a new feature,
Mm-hmm.
like how are
Yeah.
we still making it that it's accessible.
Yeah.
But also I in code reviews, when you are doing code reviews,
Mm-hmm.
more and more people are curious and they will ask, okay, how does this work, or
Yeah.
if there's hover, how does it work on like focus and all, are
Mm-hmm.
we taking care of that, is the color contrast good.
Mm-hmm.
But with color and all, that's like more less needed on our role, because there is branding and there's design,
Yeah.
so we have brands and design. And
Yeah.
but there's a very nice story which I really like to say, because I was in the meetup last week, I think in my
Mm-hmm.
company we had a meetup for accessibility, and somebody asked us like, how do you get your stakeholders and leadership
Mm-hmm.
really invested in
Okay.
accessibility, they need to know. So it happened before I joined the company, but it was so simple, and I felt so good to hear this story. So I like to say this. So uh, our brand, like in Zigo, is yellow, orange, right? The
Mm-hmm.
color is orange,
Yeah.
and we have links where it's orange on white.
Mm-hmm.
That's not accessible.
Mm-hmm.
The contrast is not good. So
Mm-hmm.
I think what they did is that they just took the some of the people, like I think from marketing or someone, I don't know, because I don't know the intricates of the story, but overall like
Yes.
the theme.
Yeah.
So they took them out like of
Mm.
office and
Yeah.
they just show them on mobile, like, can you see?
Oh, can you see it?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, that's not,
Mm-hmm.
you can't read it properly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like it can be so simple as that. So that's what I always think, like that's what I also feel is a right strategy. And I have seen these stories from multiple people, I've heard these stories. And the best way to make people onboard on accessibility is to create a use case, and it doesn't have to be very complex. This was such a simple use case,
Yeah.
and then they understood, okay, no, we need to do something with this.
Okay.
And then we changed it, like we changed the color, we changed how it should happen. So the branding still remains same, but they had discussions and all, and they tweaked it so that the contrast is good. So
Mm-hmm.
like our links now are not orange, they are black,
Mm-hmm.
and in black you can have orange, I think that's I forgot but like one
Mm-hmm.
of in dark mode or something, I think
Yeah.
it's better, so
Mm-hmm.
that's kept. But the ones which were not really, they were like, okay, no, accessibility comes first, so
Yeah.
that's how we go. And how can we ensure, so like the branding, the designing team and all, they work together so that the branding is there,
Mm-hmm.
plus it's also accessible. So I really like this collaboration. So
Yeah.
I think one
That's
word,
great.
collaboration, everyone
Yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
collaborate and understand.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
That,
nice, right, that
yeah.
you show them and they're like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, that's the problem, we
Yeah.
need to fix
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Show them the problem and
Yeah.
then they no.
Yeah. But in terms of like getting higher management on board, are there like other strategies you say worked for you, or you think are like a good strategy?
uh so I think use case is important,
Yeah.
but also like if you can put out some numbers. Numbers are important, right? So this I saw recently, okay? So I don't know if that's internal information or something, but it's not internal information, but it's in our chat. One of the numbers. So I think in Netherlands, if you see 8% or something is the number of, let's say, deaf, like the auditory disability. So
Mm-hmm.
they did some survey where how many people are using subtitles, let's
Yeah.
say on the TV and all. And so 8% people have auditory issues. So should be
Mm-hmm.
eight, maybe. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you assume that only disabled people are using the
Yeah.
features, but it was way more than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I remember the number, but I'm not just saying because I really don't know if that I think it should be a normal information, but still I will just choose to skip the number. But the number was way more than the 8%.
Mm-hmm.
So and then people were talking about it, like why. So some people said, yeah, because like I don't have auditory disability, let's say, but sometimes there is noise around,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm doing something else or
Mm-hmm.
something. So I just put the
Mm-hmm.
subtitles on as well.
Yep.
And as me personally, I always like to watch over subtitle
Yep.
because it just
Me too.
makes me understand more.
Yep.
So it's just like the number like these, that they are
Yeah.
not just like, they are for everyone. So when we when we create things from inclusion in mind, like when we create for users and not just for business, when we create like for users,
Yep.
then I think when we keep everything in mind, then it really helps everyone else.
Yeah.
So the numbers like these surveys and all, they really help the leadership, because I know that management thinks more in numbers, more
Mm-hmm.
in business
Yeah. And in numbers, do you also show them maybe some missed profits?
opportunities.
Yeah, or
I
missed
think you can
profit?
always make a
Yeah.
use case out
Yeah.
of it. If the things are not accessible, there is always missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the missed opportunity only comes from the disabled users. It
Mm-hmm.
also comes from users like, let's say me. Even if
Yep.
I don't have, I do have, like, because I have specs, so I think. But if I don't have any major visual disability, but or something, still if I see a website or a product or business that is not accessible, I will try not to use it. So the missed opportunity doesn't come only from the affected users. It also comes from the users who overall think that if this business is not inclusive, should we even
Yeah.
like use them, or should we even like, maybe that's not a
Yeah.
good place. So
And also, from a lot of times, what we're just discussing right
mhm.
now is a lot of people are want to use accessible features from time to time,
Yeah,
like the um for example, you have a good example with the curb cut. The curb
yeah,
cut effect, quite known, but also subtitles. We just I also turn them on all the time, and for example, watching movies. But also, I think very nice when you just watch small videos without any volume. You
yeah,
can still
exactly.
follow what's going on.
Yeah,
So a lot of people like to use accessibility features because sometimes it just helps them out in a certain situation.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. It's really helpful. Like, let's say, for example, I think there is also this thing about cognition, right? That a text needs to be simple. Of
Yep.
course, that's important. It doesn't only help people who have issues, like who have trouble.
Dyslexia.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
If something is
Yeah.
written in simple way, it
Yeah.
helps everyone.
Yeah.
It really helps everyone. So it's for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Personally, one of my struggles, I have dyslexia. One of the things that I feel that is hard to read for me are the WK succescriteria.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like they say, right, that the accessibility documentation is not
yeah,
that accessible.
yeah, yeah. Not to me,
So
at least. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's anyways hard to understand. You really
yeah,
have to. It's like you need a professional to make you understand.
yeah.
So those are really, because those are like kind of, you can say, business terms or something. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me as well to
Mm-hmm.
understand. I have to really sit and like read a lot to understand, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where other websites come in picture. Like I really
Yeah,
like WebAIM.
yeah.
I like DQ.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I always say about the DQ Acts dev tool,
Yeah,
because like the best way to learn about accessibility is to see what is the error and learn about it, and you
yeah,
go from there.
yeah,
So if you run the that page, like run the page in the dev tools or
yeah,
whatever the term is, then the errors will come, that these are the errors, and you click on the link, I want to read more about
yeah,
it. They gave such a nice overview
yeah,
that what is the issue and why it might impact users, what are the
yeah,
different ways. So it's a more simple,
yeah,
written in a more simpler words, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah.
And that's really
And
important.
also that's where a lot of accessibility content creators come in, because from time to time I read a very nice
Yeah.
article. I'm going to give a shout out
Mhm.
to someone right now, because I just read this great article about the focus ring. The focus
Mhm.
ring.
Yeah.
I'm doing some research on the focus ring,
Mhm.
and someone named Sarah.
Sarah, so
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
love her, she's
wow,
amazing. Oh
she's
my
so
gosh,
good, and
yes.
is such a huge article with just,
Yeah.
but also described in a way which I understand it.
Yeah.
It's really accessible to me as someone with dyslexia to just go over it. The content is just so good, and I just really all of my answers answered because I was reading, okay, adjacent background color, which side is it? And I was, and I was reading this article and I was like, oh, all my answers are great. This is so great. So this is also awesome because yeah,
Yeah,
this is
it
how
is.
you can spread the word. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, because that's how we learn. Even I have learned from internet
Hmm.
people,
Yeah.
Sarah, there's Marcy Sutton,
Yeah.
Manuel. He did the voice.
It is
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I have to understand model dialogues and all,
Hmm.
I always
Yeah.
go to his
Yeah.
articles and
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and these are also good people to follow because
Yes.
they take it really
Yes.
seriously,
Yes.
and you can trust. Okay, they provide content which is correct,
Yeah.
and which sometimes it's, of course, you don't. Yeah, you're not certain that something is, but yeah, no, that's great. So it's very nice to hear that you guys are running the Accessibility Guild and that there's really this open discussion about accessibility, and things are going that way. Are there like more things you would say are really helping this accessibility effort for you, for the teams around you? Um, yeah.
I think like this is very important,
Mhm.
is really caring about your user.
Yeah.
That is very important. So like you can learn a lot of things, but until and unless you really care about your users, you
Yeah.
are just going to uh, tick some boxes,
Yeah.
and that's not going to help in the long run. I think that's where I do see the difference here, at least with my team and the people who are in guild and all. Everyone cares,
Yeah.
everyone cares. Like, we want to make things accessible for users.
Mhm.
Yes, there is law, but it's more than that, because we want to make it and we want to keep on at least that's the notion that I get when I
Yeah.
work with people, when I see the MR reviews even by other people. It's just amazing, like,
Yeah.
I just feel good to be surrounded by people who
Hmm.
all care about
Yeah.
accessibility, because in the past I have been in places where I am caring about accessibility, I'm talking about it
Hmm.
here, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I have joined this company. And I have
Yeah.
told them, like, okay, this is one of the
Hmm.
biggest reasons, because
Hmm.
I like to be around like-minded people,
Hmm.
because then you know that those are your people, and like everyone really cares about it.
Yeah.
And I really like how people approach it. So like, and I learn from others, like, okay, I like to be in places where I learn from people.
Hmm.
Like here,
Hmm.
I'm not an expert. I'm just a normal developer, and I am learning a lot from,
Yeah.
because there's many things. Accessibility is not just about buttons and diffs and all, right?
Hmm.
It's a lot. When you are in a complex scenario, how are you going to approach it?
Yeah.
How are you finding the solution? It's just beautiful. So I think that's very important. So like, that care, that empathy, the empathy needs to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
that's the biggest thing I would say anywhere. Like, you need to be passionate and you need to really care about the things if you want to make it long term and not just a short term law checkbox thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? Like,
Well, I think training for me is up there. Getting
yes.
everyone
Okay.
training, I think is one of the first thing I would do. Get some
Yeah.
proper training in for
Everyone.
everyone,
Yes.
all of different roles,
Yes.
engineers, designers, everyone. But also some deep dive trainings. I
Hmm.
think after that,
Yeah.
for the people that, well, I would say most of the people, but you always have some people who are trying to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
So like
um,
champions
yeah,
and all,
yeah,
where
yeah,
you
and
can
he
have,
gives this
yeah.
champions programs.
Yeah.
I think they can bring some success as well with
Yeah.
the
The other
championing
people
each team.
can
Yeah,
come to them
yeah,
if they have
yeah, yeah,
questions
yeah,
and
and you
all.
make like someone in the team responsible for accessibility,
Yeah.
which is good. So I would say training, but also that's like the first thing I'll do. But getting it into like processes, getting it into your like your development life cycle is is what will get you to higher maturity in the end. So things like I was saying in the beginning, okay, why is it that my pipeline breaks when I push something that's insecure and not when I push something that's
Inaccessible.
inaccessible? We can do something with automation. Um, then I would also say monitoring on it, getting some good data resources within the companies. Also, some automation comes into play there, but we also monitor on like accessibility stories in the backlogs of all the teams. You have more like these kinds of sources you can get data out of which you can monitor on, which is nice. Um, um, and then what I personally like that we are doing quite well is testing with people, with our end users and also users with disabilities.
Yes.
So and learning, getting trying to learn, of course, but also some advice, getting some advices to the rest of the company. And this I would say is more the harder part, because there are like rounds of interviews always hosted with our end users, and then we get some learnings out of it and a big report is made. And but getting the word out and changing the way of working is a little bit harder after that. I'm not sure if you have any experience with that.
Uh, I personally don't know about it, but this is something like all the strategies you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, right? Like training, super important for everyone.
Yeah.
And then deep training,
Yeah.
keep in prog. Hiring people with disabilities, very important. You need to have like they say, nothing about us without us. So
Yeah.
all need to be included in the process. But about the surveys, right? Like interviews with end users. That's very, very important, because we can think a lot about how we are making a value in users' life, but unless we get a feedback, we really don't know. I don't know much about this in our company front, but I'm pretty sure that they would be doing it. It's just that I'm not aware of it totally. But because that's very important, user feedback. We also have, and that's really important point that you said, that we also have people who really give us feedback on this, and that's very important.
Yeah.
And one important thing which I always suggest to everyone is to really understand how disabled people are using the web, and not just think, because I have seen scenarios where uh, people think that okay, they use tab to go through everything. They put tab index 0 on headings and all and everywhere, because they think that tab is the only way in which the disabled
Yeah, shit.
users use the web. So that's not the only way. So there are certain use cases on YouTube as well. And also, if you go to the W3 website for accessibility, there you have multiple links where you can see how they are using the web. So I always suggest to the people, and I also personally do it to see that how they really use it, and what are the things I need to keep in my mind, and where the things I need to improve.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's for me. It's also up there. And what we also, one of the initiatives of the guild is also manually testing applications, because we do get like we have companies that do the third party like auditing for us, but they have, yeah, of course, when you do a proper WCAG-IM audit, you need to have like a big sample size.
Yeah.
So, and that didn't quite work for us, because what we do with the guild, we narrow it down to one application. So one application is developed by one team, so you can communicate with them and just give them a more broader picture of how good they're doing in terms of accessibility within their own application. And with the larger audits, with like 25 different pages, which could be like 25 different um, could be like 25 different applications for us. It's um, not everyone feel. Yeah, of course, you get a few problems in this application, a few problems in this application, and then it get distributed to all of the teams, and then nobody feels like they have the full picture of everything that's going wrong in their application. So what we are doing with the guild is like testing one application at a time and giving them a full report on how they are doing in their application. Yeah,
That could be a good approach.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do because I don't know about this aspect because, but I'm going to ask this
Mhm.
question
Yeah.
this week because if it's we are doing it, then that's amazing. But that could be something we can take into account because yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely good. We definitely have lots of audit reports and everything, and then we create tickets out of it. I see, and people working on it, and then also getting feedback on it that if it's working or not. And we want to see that in next audit, did we do good? Because recently, one of our editors he gave a presentation in marketing because. One of the pages became like after I think in after one of the tests it became you say they say green or something, like it became really good, like accessibility issues were solved and it was really good. So that was a big achievement for us to celebrate that okay people are doing it, and that was pretty nice. I think it was really nice. So but what you are saying, that's actually good because yeah there are approaches, but how do you handle the result of it? That's also equally
Yeah.
important. You can get all the data, but if
Yeah.
that data just remains as data, that's not going to help. We need to
Yeah.
turn into important information, right?
Yeah.
Like which we can act upon. So that's yeah. Do you have like design system or something?
Yeah.
Because okay, then it can also be tackled in a design system form because if the issues are getting like if I have a button, if I have a model, if I have a nav, if those things get accessible, then they go to all the applications if all the applications are using it. That's also, I think that's also where design system really shines. Then you really see the importance. Yes, it's atoms, molecules, organism, okay, whatever, but it really helps to propagate the one change, and everywhere in the page everything is working good now. So
Design system is really important. I feel like, but it's also not like if you have a very accessible design system, it's also not your application won't be accessible by default because you also need to use it in an accessible way. That's important as well. But having like a very nice accessible design system really helps. Yeah, yeah,
of course,
definitely.
like it's
Yeah,
the way we use it. That's
yeah,
also important. That's where
yeah,
documentation comes in. So if you have a
yeah,
design system, a good documentation, how to use it. But of
yeah,
course,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like you said, it's in multiple stages. It's
yeah,
not just that you create components and make it accessible and that's done.
yeah.
No, how you implement it. Then if something is wrong, it needs to be like it can be catched in your review stage. If not, maybe we have something in the pipeline,
Mhm.
Cypress test and all. We can have Cypress test,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
can help too.
yeah, yeah,
And then of course testing,
yeah,
like testing.
yeah.
So we need to be like, now we are definitely putting accessibility, like whenever we create the stories we are putting accessibility as success criteria. So not successful until it is accessible, because that's how we should approach. And uh testers, that's like I think there's a lot of responsibility on them, like uh yeah, like it's everyone's responsibility. And testers are like the gatekeepers, so testers
Yeah.
also like
I do have the feeling that they have a hard time with accessibility though,
really,
because
yeah.
they for me it was easier to get into because have been like a front end developer for more than 10 years now, and then eventually, okay, you kind of get what they're saying when you're reading the WCAG, for example, or you kind of get what everyone is saying when you read stuff about it online. But for a tester, this is not particularly your day to day work. You're not working daily on the front end, of course. So
Yeah,
I think it's harder to get into for testers, but it's very, yeah. If you have a good tester who can also test on accessibility. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where like the tailored training comes into picture. Like everyone has different point of view, so like everyone has a different way of
Yeah.
testing into accessibility. But yes, having a good tester is
Yeah.
really really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Like training the testers, like nobody
Hmm.
gets good by themselves,
Yeah.
so training is
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm also speaking to a lot of people in the accessibility space currently. So what I also spoke to a few people who say, okay, WCAG is of course really important, but it's also not everything, because you can still, yeah, of course, if you really want to, you can still make something that's inaccessible when following WCAG. Um, are there some? What is your feeling with this? Should you do more than just WCAG? So should you implement WCAG and then look ahead, but also maybe in terms of like user research or
It's
yeah,
yeah, it's like WCAG is, of course, like it's like set
yeah,
of, it's a guideline, right?
yeah,
Like it gives us guideline
yeah,
that if there is a control like this or something, this is how it should be
yeah,
done. But it doesn't tell you when to implement what, right? Like
yeah,
it can't dictate that. So that's where, of course, the our decision making comes into
yeah,
picture. Like I said, like a very simple example, WCAG can
yeah,
tell you that alt,
yeah,
that there has to be alt,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
what, but it's on us to decide if it's going to be presentational or not, and what's the
yeah,
information and how much information should you put, which can be very different for different things, right? So
yeah.
those things is on us. So I also am not a big fan of just checking the checklist and like
Mm-hmm.
saying that okay, my work is done. It's more about how the experience is of the product or
Yeah,
the service to the
yeah,
user. The experience is more important.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
For example, there are some rules which are maybe less significant than other rules, right? So like there are rules where heading should be in order. Sometimes H4, H5, even if that's a mismatch, maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
forgivable. But what is not forgivable is the button needs to work as button, the anchor needs to
Mm-hmm.
really work as
Mm-hmm.
anchor.
Hmm.
These things are really not forgivable, like
Yeah,
very very important.
yeah,
And that's where also user research comes into
yeah,
picture, because you need to know what users want or what makes them better. So recently one link was shared, and I really like that link because that is about user research.
yeah,
And I was just reading through the research where even in the forms, there was some research, not many people, data points, like maybe 30 people or something. So
mm-hmm.
it's like Netherlands research. Someone did
Okay.
a research, like some official. I will have
Mm-hmm.
to look up the link later.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really liked is about forms. Like they just put different kind of A/B
Mm-hmm.
testing, I think, different variants, and saw
Mm-hmm.
what user found more easy to go through. And that is also something which actually we also do, like A/B testing. We do a lot of A/B testing, and we try to also put the accessibility things there to understand that what is making users
Yeah,
uh, you know,
yeah,
getting better. Even for the forms, I definitely remember we had something about the forms
yeah,
where we wanted to really decide that how do we want these forms to be for the users, because the forms look different on web and on mobile. You have less space, you have less space to do
yeah,
things. So how do you want to do
yeah,
things, how do you want to present the information? So there was a big discussion and all, and there were different variants created,
mm-hmm.
and I think tests were done.
Yeah,
And the same thing in this user research I saw. And then the users, like they preferred if for every field, you give them some information on how to fill or what to
ah,
fill
yeah,
there,
yeah,
and like short questions.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Just give me short questions, and it's
yeah,
better for me to feel what is your issue.
yeah,
Simple
yeah.
as that.
And yeah, this was what I was trying to get at, because
Yeah.
this is more than just WCAG. This is following WCAG,
Yeah.
but then also doing this extra step of like A/B testing. Okay, what works for the user?
Yes.
What is understandable? How can we help him in such a way that it's even a better user experience for everyone?
Yeah, because they are the guidelines.
Yeah,
Okay, they are written set of rules.
yeah,
Yes, that's there. But we have to do more than that. Not only that, they are again just the starting line. Like
Yeah.
that is the bare minimum, I would say. Like bare minimum,
Yeah.
but you have to do more. Like
Yeah.
how you make the experience better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And also there are of course a lot of WCAG rules,
Mhm.
not in WCAG because they have some trouble like defining them, or they have some trouble translating them in such a way that it's easily implementable. I know a few people in the W3C groups. They tell about it's okay. We have a lot of rules which are almost implementable or are almost made it into WCAG, but we can just not get the text right, or we can just not, because there. So there are more things, of course, we can. Yeah, well, that
Yeah.
tells me, okay, there are more things we can do than just WCAG.
Yeah. That's not
Um,
everything.
yeah, it's not everything, but what I will always also will say, okay, but WCAG is really something I can hold dear
Yes.
to me,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's just something I can fall back on
Yeah.
and read about. Although it's not very accessible to me, but it's something you can discuss together. It's actually very nice, a very nice starting point,
Yeah.
and
You
the
need.
the basics of what you can do to make your application on a
Yeah.
basic level accessible, and uh, getting to some point of like, okay, this is acceptable, and then of course you should always try to do better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, the base is the
Yeah.
baseline. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's a strong baseline because it provides us a very strong grounds where we can
Yeah.
stand,
Yeah.
and we can do more
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Great. Maybe looking into the future, some of the one of the last question, maybe looking into the future, what are some of your goals, what are some of your wishes, maybe, in terms of accessibility? Doesn't have to be, of course. Yeah, curious to know.
Yeah. So one of my biggest wish is because this law is coming. The one thing which I hope doesn't happen is like we were discussing before as well,
Mhm.
that people don't take it that is the law, so we have to do it, and after that we forget about it. You know, it has to be the start, not the end. So my wish is that from now on, because more and more people are getting aware, more and more people are taking action, learning, the curriculums are including accessibility,
Yeah.
so that only expands, that doesn't stop after some time. So let's say after a year it shouldn't stop. It should only get better from there. And I hope, like, my best case scenario is where it's not a topic where people still don't know about or don't
Yeah.
care about,
Yeah.
or it's after a year or two, let's say, because the law is there now, so maybe that's not the topic anymore, where we still have to get the stakeholders and leadership on boarded. So it should be at a position that the leadership, stakeholders, everyone are aware, and they are also advocating,
Yeah.
and they are also like, they can say from the start that that's the goal.
Yeah.
When you start a product, the goal would be to make it inclusive, to make it for everyone, and not like right now in most of the companies like we are doing, because we are trying to make things accessible, which were, or some things were not working before. The goal would be all the new things that are being made that are accessible by default,
Mm.
and it shouldn't be something that you need to invest later into to
Yeah.
make it again accessible. So that's my biggest thing, you know,
Yeah.
where it becomes just a normal topic.
Yeah,
And
just normalize.
yeah,
Okay, this is something we
and
just do on a
as
day-to-day basis.
important as
Yeah.
performance and
Yeah.
security and
Yeah.
SEO.
Yeah. 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 All right, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the people who want to follow you or connect with you, where can people find you online?
LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I am on X also, but
Mm-hmm.
not, I don't use it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. So I will just say LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So Anuradha 15
Mm-hmm.
15
Mm-hmm.
on LinkedIn. So yeah, you can always
Right.
get connected with me and
Great.
ask if you have any questions or anything. That's totally fine.
That's very nice. All right. Thank you so much for joining and taking the time to come onto the podcast. And of course, to the listeners, if you like what we do, consider supporting us by giving a like or subscribe or whatever you can do on your audio stream or YouTube, whatever. Thank you for listening. Thank you
Thank you.
for joining. And yeah, hope to speak to you again very soon.
Yes, thank you so much for
All right.
having me. Yeah.
It's all right. It's a wrap.
Okay.